Howard, buddy, how are ya? It's Ted. Hope you don't mind. I took Liz and the kids to check out this new Arnie flick. It's about a workaholic father who can't show up for his own son. You know a thing or two about that, but don't worry, Ted's here. Anyway, the workaholic dad runs around last-minute Christmas shopping, and he falls into the plights of holiday capitalism and ends up punching a reindeer and flying around in a superhero suit. It gets real wacky and... Oh, your wife's cookies! This is Jingle All the Way. Put that cookie down! No! I said workaholic father off the top, right? Because I almost said alcoholic the second time I said it.
Oh.
And I don't know, there's a slight chance I'm going to say alcoholic in the top. I don't think I said it.
I don't know.
We'll find out.
Yeah, I guess we'll just change it if you did. I'll ADR you in saying workaholic.
Thank you. Yeah. It'll blend in. It'll be fine.
You did Phil Hartman, which you told me you were gonna do. You told me you were not gonna do Arnold.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, we'll see how that goes. And I'm like, wow, you did a pretty good Phil Hartman.
Thanks. Well, because like I don't have a good Arnold impression at all, and I was like, it's gonna be a really annoying start if I'm like, oh, you have to watch this movie, you know.
Do you know anyone that has like a genuinely good one?
Yes, and you know who it is too.
Do I?
Yeah, him and I worked together at the very first job that I had.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
I used to make him say like random Arnold lines for fun.
He does have a really good one, and it's like distinct from everyone else who just does a sound.
Yeah.
So yeah. I excited to do this movie on the podcast. You know why I'm excited? Because the past two movies are just these deep existential movies where we've been getting really personal.
Yeah.
And I think people can tell with these past two episodes that I'm speaking for myself here, that I haven't been doing the best mentally, that I've been struggling with a lot of stuff. It's winter, the end of the year. Everyone goes through shit during this time. It's a rough season for everyone. And sitting down and watching this movie yesterday for this podcast, I didn't realize how badly I needed a dumb, bad shit, crazy movie like this in my life. Like when I watched it, I'm like, yes, this is kind of why you watch movies, because you want to like escape into the most insane experience ever sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
Which is how I categorize this movie, as an insane experience.
I know. It's one of those movies that you don't realize how nutty it is. It kind of turns the dial as the movie goes, where it's like a little nuttier than the previous scene.
Exactly. So I'm going to introduce the show. Welcome to Movies That Changed Us. I'm Altaf.
And I'm Chris.
And today we're going to explore how Jingle All the Way changed us. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, know that you can also watch us at YouTube at Movies That Changed Us.
And we also have a Patreon, guys, if anyone wants to support the show and likes it. You can go to patreon.com/movies that changed us, where you can get podcasts ad-free and early. And you can also get weekly commentary tracks where we watch movies and talk over them. Exactly.
So, Chris, I'm going to ask you right off the top, and this will, I think, maybe define why the hell we're doing this movie on this podcast. How did Jingle All the Way change you?
Well, you know, I wouldn't say this movie changed me, but I will say I grew up with this movie and watched it religiously as a kid. I had it on VHS. I was obsessed with this movie. I thought the Turbo Man was a real superhero and like had a real action figure, and asked my parents for it and everything. And I even acted out Jake Lloyd's little, when he's like, I want the Turbo Man action figure with the arms and legs that move, and you know, the voice box that says it's turbo time, you know, all that shit. I did that for my parents to like, that was my way of asking for it.
Really?
Oh yeah. And my dad had to like sit me down and explain to me that it wasn't a real toy.
Kind of like someone explaining to their son that Santa isn't real.
Yeah, exactly. And so this movie, you know, this firsthand just gets me in a brighter mood immediately.
Yeah, it makes you laugh harder than any other movie.
It's so stupid and so cynical and so I didn't realize until like recently in the past couple of years how John Hughes coded it is too.
Yeah. Like I like how you've been using the phrase coded recently a lot. Like even off mic you've been it feels like you and I both are like a few months late to TikTok slang.
Yeah,
it happens with me a lot. I'm just like, oh, now we're stepping in.
We're caught up. You know, don't worry, guys. We're influencers. You know, we're gonna be.
Sorry to cut you off, but you were saying that it's very John Hughes coded.
Yes, and so you know, this movie is just overall a fun time, and I'm just excited to do this one.
Yeah. So I watched it for the first time with you a few years ago. Heard the title of the movie, didn't know the story at all, but knew you got a big kick out of it. And I remember you always phrased it, yeah, like, dude, it's a pretty crazy movie. I don't know if I would say it's particularly good in like a, critical sense, but you always expressed to me how you watched this movie a lot growing up. And it was such a unique experience because sitting down and watching it with you the first time 3 years ago, maybe, didn't think I didn't really enjoy the movie, but I enjoyed the way you watched it, which is like you were laughing uncontrollably. You were having so much fun.
Well, that time I was also a bit inebriated during the watching experience.
I remember watching you be like, whoa, I've never seen him have this much fun. And it kind of opened up a little bit for me, how you became a movie fan and how like a lot of us become movie fans, which is like, I kind of phrase your taste in movies. Like I've phrased this to you personally off mic as you have like the taste of like a Walmart bin, the $5 bin, where you will casually mention offshoot Happy Madison movies, not the Adam Sandler ones, but like the other ones. You'll mention like Blades of Glory, which is great. I'm not criticizing these movies, but I'm just saying like you will reference these movies as if they're like Pulp Fiction, as if like they are like a Scorsese movie. That's how you quote them to me. And when I saw you watch Jingle All the Way, it kind of gave me an insight of who you are as a movie lover.
Yeah. I have like a very strong affinity for like kind of B-side movies, And Jingle All the Way is a big one for me. Like I said, I watched that movie all the time as a kid. It was I don't know how it wound up in my ownership when I was a toddler, but I watched it like off Christmas, during Christmas, and now it's just my yearly watch.
And so the second time I watched it was last year, again with you.
Mm-hmm.
And
we did it for Discord.
Well, I was going to say that. It was a Discord. We decided to do a live watch along on Discord, which we should do again sometime. That was a fun time. But I remember we did that. And I don't know what it was, but I don't know if it was watching it with our fans on Discord or just like kind of being more open to the insane experience, knowing what to expect with that ending. I loved it like wholeheartedly. I had such a fun time. And now watching again yesterday, it felt like I needed it. Like I felt like it made me happy.
Yeah.
Because this movie operates at 1,000. Every emotion is like the biggest emotion. If people are angry, it becomes so violent so quickly. Like you don't know what's going to happen. Like suddenly he's in a mob of Santas. They're fighting and then the cops break through and it's a raid.
It's the Grinch, scatter.
And Arnold, at the center of it all, is not half-assing it at all. In a movie that like normally an actor with that stature who gets paid that much and who's such a big movie star, especially at that time, would half-ass it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He's like, this is just a paycheck job. He commits so hard to the bit. It is actually like mind-boggling. I'm like, he's not giving up. Like his eyes are popping every scene. Like when he's angry at Phil Hartman, you buy it. Like,
yeah. Arnold came to play for this movie.
I think it's a good performance. Like, I'm not even kidding.
It might sound crazy to people. I'm sure there's like people, I'm just going to be blunt about it, older than us that probably don't quite get it. And it's funny because you didn't grow up with this movie. And so I'm not going to gatekeep that.
But it's probably the people that like were teenagers when the iconic Arnold movies were coming out.
Yeah.
That when they saw this as a lesser than movie.
Totally. That's the thing. There are like a whole group of people that just don't understand this movie the way that we do. But I think this movie is not objectively like, oh, this is a moving movie that really helps my whatever you want to call it, the same way we did with It's a Wonderful Life at all. But it's a good fucking time and it's entertaining and it moves and the story is pretty clean.
Yeah, on Letterboxd, I wrote like a little, quirky one-line review the way people do.
Follow Altaf's Letterboxd, guys. You want to plug it?
Yeah, it's my name. Just follow me at Altaf Nanawati on Letterboxd.
How do you spell that?
ALTAFNANAWATI.
All right, cool. Just for listeners.
Yeah, for sure. And on Letterboxd, I wrote a movie from hell that's endlessly entertaining. Like it feels like another world the way this movie operates.
Well, I forgot who said it. This isn't my original thought, but I heard someone on YouTube or a video essayist or a reviewer had this take on the movie that's so true, but it's kind of what I love about it, that the movie's too cynical and mean-spirited to be like a kid's movie, but it's way too silly to be like an adult Christmas movie too.
Well, okay.
It hits this really unique tone and blend,
that you can't, it almost like it's hard to make sense of it at times because you're like, okay, it feels like it's going for something has the heart, but then it's also extremely cynical towards the American culture of Christmas.
Yeah.
And the consumerism culture. Well, so I read into that. And by read into it, I mean I looked it up on Wikipedia to be completely clear.
Yeah. You read a Wikipedia article.
The writer of this movie was Randy Cornfield. Christopher Columbus came on after 20th Century Fox and took on the script and decided they wanted to make it with Arnold. Christopher Columbus took a look at it, and Christopher Columbus remembered like that feeling that was in the script of just like wanting to get the Turbo Man doll. And he said, I remember like wanting to get like Buzz Lightyear for my kid from Toy Story and having the same like ick feeling of looking at everyone chasing after this thing during a holiday that's meant to be about giving, but people got violent in the mall and all that stuff. And he said that he had this like, he looked at the script and had like wanted to bring that kind of satire into it. And so the movie becomes that because of our Christopher Columbus.
Yeah.
Because he did like a rewrite.
Well, his fingerprints are very much on it, which is why funny enough I said John Hughes coded, because it does remind me of like the tone that Home Alone achieved, or like, maybe Ferris Bueller, those kind of goofier John Hughes movies.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because I don't really look at it as a John Hughes movie at all. Because I feel like John Hughes isn't as like straight up satirical and cynical as this movie is.
Well, it's definitely not literally John Hughes. I'm just saying his sense of humor sometimes feels like it's sprinkled in there.
In what sense? Like, what do you mean?
Like the reindeer and like the funny neighbor. That's like kind of which we'll get to Phil Hartman's performance. He's incredible in this movie.
It's like the vacation of it all.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like
it feels like a Clark Griswold type of thing going on. You know what I'm saying? Like the kind of the sillier side that John Hughes has.
Yeah, no, totally. The National Lampoon side of him. I was thinking a lot about Chevy Chase.
Sure, yeah.
Because it does have that quality of a man going insane for like his family, but at the same time, like, is this even worth it anymore? And that's what's so great about the vacation movies.
Yeah. And like it's funny to say this, but watching Jingle All the Way as an adult, there are some scenes that stress me the fuck out and probably stress me out differently than it would if I were a kid. Of him trying like at the front, like wrestling with all the people to get the toys and the toy racks falling over. It's just mayhem.
Yeah. And when I say the movie's at 1,000, like even when he like goes into that store, tries to look for the Turbo Man doll, talks to the employees, and then the escalation of the joke of at first it's the one store clerk laughing at him. He brings over his friend. He's like, this guy's looking at the Turbo Man doll. That friend starts laughing, and then they announce it to the whole store. Yeah. The whole store is laughing at him.
I know. It's only like the hottest selling Christmas toy ever. Duh.
Again, it's like really like this movie feels like it lives in another world.
Yeah, very much, very much.
Everything's about heightening. But there's also a part of it that I kind of respect, that the movie doesn't try to be anything but that.
Yeah.
The movie isn't trying to be, in my opinion, it isn't really trying to be this like very grounded movie.
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, he punches a reindeer. This movie is not grounded.
I think this movie knows exactly what it is, which is like, we are going to show the insane depths someone will go to get this one doll. And we're not going to pull back. It's going to be to the point where like this raffle ball that's supposed to get him the Turbo Man doll falls on this kid's lap that's on a stroller. Arnold, this Greek statuesque type of man, goes after him, being like, you have my ball. Chases him into a ball pit. He's like, little girl, can I have my ball? And then all these parents whack him, you pervert.
Yeah, I'm not a pervert.
Yeah, it's just like, you can list off things in this movie, describe it to someone, and be like, how were they allowed?
Oh, yeah. And again, I got to stress, each scene's weirder than the previous consistently. Like, immediately after that, that's when he meets, what's his face, the actor, James Belushi?
Yeah, the mall Santa.
Yeah, he meets the mall Santa, then finds this whole, like, operation cartel of, like, bootleg toys.
Yeah.
But I think, like, the other thing that I like about it, though, is that there still is this kind of essence, like you said, this kind of like cynical essence to it, of like the stress that parents have to go through to get the fucking stupid toys for their kids. That the kids have no idea how much chaos it is.
Yeah. What's your worst memory of like, do you have like a worst memory of Christmas or something about Christmas that like stresses you out?
I mean, pretty much every year I still go through it. I don't have any specific like stories per se around it, but I don't like, I usually am pretty tight on money around this time of the year. And so I get mostly stressed around timing my payday so I can get gifts for everyone, because I have a lot of family members. And I'm like, well, fuck, if I have to get, like, I have, multiple siblings and, multiple parents. And so I think in general, I just relate to that overall feeling of like, especially when I get paid closer to last minute, when I have to go in and you have to like hold your breath before going into the Sears or going into wherever you're going to go, the mall. You're like, okay, here we go. It's going to be crowded. I got to find parking. You know what I mean?
That's interesting because like I have like, I don't have experience with Christmas in that way. I didn't grow up celebrating Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like I'm always looking at stuff that you go through and everyone goes through in Christmas, the stresses of it, from an outsider's perspective looking in.
Sure. Yeah.
Just being like, wow, yeah, these people are like insane. You know what I mean?
I know, man. It's never any better every year.
I think my relationship with Christmas has been through movies. I understand Christmas through movies. I understand primarily Home Alone. Home Alone is the one I watched the most as a kid. And that was like, for me, that's what Christmas is. Home Alone and Elf, probably.
Sure. Yeah. Those are two huge ones.
Right. And so I always thought Christmas was like this big house with like a bunch of people in there eating great food and a lot of gifts. And I think like the dark side of it was never explored for me until I watched Jingle All the Way. And I'm like, oh, this is like bad. Like,
I know, right?
It makes you not like Christmas watching this movie.
I know. A movie does that pretty well too, is Krampus.
Krampus literally opens with this like joyous Christmas song matched with everyone fighting each other in the mall.
It's like that feeling in Krampus's opening is like the entire movie for Jingle All the Way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know. I mean, just the radio jockey scene is like all you need to know about how this movie feels about Christmas.
Exactly. I mean, shouty to the casting of the radio jockey. I don't know if he's a real radio jockey or who that guy is, but he looks like the most radio jockey
Are
possible.
you referencing the ponytail?
Yeah, the tight ponytail, the mustache, and like thick glasses and like his little vest. Like, he's exactly what I would imagine if someone's like, hey, picture a old school radio jockey.
Sinbad is also kind of amazing in this. Sinbad is another, like, what I'm talking about, which is like, he commits so hard to every joke. Like, every joke is like the hardest, like, punchline ever. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. He's always yelling and is always, like, super stressed out and is always going on tangents.
Well, there's this, like, really entertaining part about this movie, which is, like, you never know if a scene is going to end with a fist fight or not. You know what
That's so true. I know. And
like, even at the diner, when they have this, like, heart-to-heart, and suddenly, like, he sees his kid as like the postman that Sinbad became, and his kid is like drinking that liquor. You know what I mean?
Here's to you, Dad.
Which is a great by Jake Lloyd. He killed it in that scene.
Yeah.
But then he gets on a phone booth with the radio jockey, and suddenly now it's a fight scene.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Like right when they hear news that, on the radio that they're doing, like you have to name all the reindeer, all of Santa's reindeer. Yeah. They both start wrestling and fighting to get to the phone booth, and he's holding him, and then Sinbad unplugs it, and then they're both going on like a foot chase.
Yeah, I think that's what keeps this movie endlessly entertaining, is like you don't know how each scene, you never can expect how it ends. And then you get to the Turbo Man stuff at the end, and you're like, I remember watching that Turbo Man sequence with you, and my jaw was on the floor, and you were like cackling laughing.
Well, because, I know. I realized that the real joy in this movie is showing it to people. Because like even when we did the Discord watch along last year, there were people in the stream that hadn't seen it before. So there were people writing in all caps like, "Wait, is this really happening?"
Yeah, and we had to keep like, guys, you don't even know yet. It's like still hasn't reached its peak. Like I want to talk about Arnold a little bit more.
Sure, yeah.
Was this your first Arnold movie?
Fuck yeah, it was. It was one of my first movies.
So you watched this before you ever watched like Kindergarten Cop, Terminator, all that.
Yeah. Terminator I didn't see till much later, funny enough.
Right.
It was, R-rated. But I saw that. saw Kindergarten Cop when I was a kid too. But again, I was like a baby toddler territory when I watched Jingle All the Way.
So Bill Simmons from The Ringer recently did a video with Van Lathan from The Ringer. They did this 10-minute like conversation that was a segment from their podcast talking a little bit about Red One. And obviously that movie ended up bombing, and the trailers never looked that good. Rock is, in my opinion, hasn't really made a good movie in a while. And it's the thing that was kind of promising about it was that it's an original Christmas movie, right? And The Rock, I think this movie shows me what The Rock can't do, which is, I remember Bill Simmons was saying in the Red One podcast that he did, that like, if Arnold did Red One, it would immediately be better no matter the material, because Arnold is someone that can say anything and it'd be funny.
Yeah.
Like, I remember Bill Simmons says, he's like, he could hold a water bottle. He's like, it's a water bottle. And it's immediately like, oh, I'm in.
Yeah.
And sure, it's his accent, right? Whatever. Like, surface level, his accent is entertaining. But I think this movie shows me that Arnold knows he's a goofy person. Like, Arnold knows that his accent in his statuesque body is really funny.
Yeah.
And he can utilize that to be badass in like Terminator and even Total Recall.
Predator and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. And Predator's probably the coolest he's ever looked. But I think in Jingle All the Way, it works because he's not afraid to make himself look silly or stupid. And that is something The Rock doesn't do. The Rock, like in Red One, is this soldier for Santa. And he takes himself very seriously. But Arnold is like the wackiest person in this movie, and he like knows it. Like, he knows that if I deliver the cookie line in this way, it's funny.
Yeah, it's like, I know, the cookie line, I know, we'll get to that one, but I definitely agree with that. Like, it's a role that doesn't need Arnold. Like, they could easily cast, like you said, a Chevy Chase type, but he just elevates it in a different way. And it just makes it that much funnier when he gets in the actual Turbo Man suit.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, especially when he's like shooting, like when he starts waving at people, even before he takes flight, when he's waving at people, he's like, hey, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. But like you said, though, going off your point, though, like when they're wrestling for the raffle balls you can see his eye, like he's acting in all the scenes.
Yeah. When he's like, he has 2 balls.
He got 2.
Yeah, there's just something about him that he is very self-aware. I mean, Arnold's like notorious for being like a master marketer. Like, he is someone who understands his brand so well, and it's the reason he at one point was like the biggest movie star in the world. Like, he understood that like if I'm doing these like Terminator, rated R action movies and like Predator, I also should be doing like comedy.
Yeah, family movies essentially.
And he knew that if he did that, he's basically going to be undefeated. If he hits on both sides,
he dominates all the demographics essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he looked at it as a business sense, but because he did that is the reason he became so successful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, especially in the 90s, that era was when he was doing all the comedies. That's when he did Kindergarten Cop. He did Twins.
Was Kindergarten Cop 90s?
I thought it was, or maybe late 80s, but I could swear it was 90s.
Yeah, it was 1990.
Yeah. And then what was the other one that he did? There's another one where he
Junior.
I was literally opening my mouth to be like, isn't there one where he gets pregnant? I didn't see that one.
I just think that like the comparison between The Rock and Arnold is thrown a lot, but I feel like the reason, and maybe like, Rock is doing the A24 movie with Benny Safdie, holding on hope that like that changes his trajectory a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think Arnold, even though he had such a tight control of his brand the way The Rock does, something that Arnold had with his comedies is that he knew that if he's a big guy that's a hunk that looks weird.
Yeah. And sounds weird.
And sounds weird. So, and I say that lovingly.
Yeah. But he has a unique voice.
But he utilized that to his full advantage. Like, he knows what he sounds like.
Yeah.
It's not like the filmmakers kind of took advantage of that and it ended up being accident. He knows exactly. I mean, In this movie, it feels like he's doing an impersonation of Arnold. Like he's he's even heightening his accent a little bit.
Well, I know, and it's funny because I consider like his role as by the way, his name is Howard Langston, just to know that's his character's name, you know.
I mean, it's a tradition of like every Arnold movie to have like the whitest name ever.
Yeah, Detective John Kimball in Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah.
But anyway, though, I consider like, you know, of all the iconic Arnold looks, you know, like in Predator with the camo and Terminator with a leather jacket, I do throw Howard in there with his little brown coat jogging through New York looking all worried. I just associate that as another era of Arnold.
For you, yeah. Of
Yeah, for
course.
me, exactly.
Yeah, and probably for like a certain generation too.
Sure.
I also I think we should talk a little bit about Phil Hartman in this movie.
Yeah.
Outside of Arnold, I love Sinbad, like I already said. I think a lot of these performances are really good.
Yeah.
Rita Wilson, she just doesn't have much to do. She plays like the wife.
Well, yeah, but you know what I will say, just to throw in something for Rita, is that like her character is like a good wife. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's kind of like it.
Well, I'm not saying she's like this incredibly deep character. I'm more just trying to say that like, you know, I like that this movie has like his wife be like very consistently resistant to Ted and his charms.
Yeah, I mean, she has that great moment when he puts like when they're like watching the Christmas Carolers, he puts his arm around her and she like kind of dances it off.
Exactly. There's a lot of those little moments where, you know, what was it? Like she's upset with Howard. She's upset with Arnold. I'm just going to say Arnold just to not confuse people. But she's upset with Arnold, but keeping it between them, essentially.
Well, yeah, I think like at the end of the day, like I said, all the performances I really enjoy. Phil Hartman might be the best performance and it's not an accident. You know what I mean? Like that, this is like when you watch Phil Hartman in this movie, I was like, oh, that's like an actual comedic talent. Not saying Sinbad isn't.
Oh, he
Sinbad's
adds so much to his character.
Sinbad's really good. But Phil Hartman's like a realized character. Like you could tell like this guy thought about everything this person was doing. Like the way he holds the camcorder, the way he's like handing the hot cocoa to everyone.
His little plate of hot chocolates to all like these women in the neighborhood.
He doesn't even have to open his mouth and he's funny.
Oh yeah, this is the little expressions, his body language, his little button ups and his glasses. He's just perfect for it, you know. I think like the introduction to him essentially was when it was at the karate, ceremony where he's filming it, and then those ladies go up to his ear and they're like, "Thanks for fixing my screen door," or whatever it was.
Yeah, he reminds me of the energy that he gives off is the same energy that season 1 of Sopranos, the priest, gives off.
Oh yeah,
yeah, where like he's always like eating Carmela ziti and talking to her, and it's like not sexual but just close enough.
Well, the thing is, like, are you comfortable with me bringing up that you're not in a relationship right now?
Nah, yeah, I'm not in a
Okay,
relationship
cool.
right now.
I don't know what you want out there.
Who fucking told you?
My secret. No, but I was gonna say, like, I feel like every long-term relationship has like, in most long-term hetero, I'm sure all types of relationships dealt with this. There's always this one extra person that's a little uncomfortably close to one of them.
Yeah.
Where you're kind of like the other partner's like,
well, you have to keep kind of an eye out.
Yeah, to keep like, I'm not sure if this is weird or not. I'm not sure if my partner agrees this is weird or not. And hopefully everything goes peacefully with that. But that happens, right? And so I think Phil Hartman's character has such perfect, like, intrusive stepdad energy in like the way he like passive aggressively alphas Arnold Schwarzenegger consistently. Like when he drives home, he's like, "What the hell are you doing on my roof?" And then he like plugs in and he's like, I didn't have lights, so I figured why not.
He alphas Arnold by being a more present father figure.
Exactly. It's like a perfect, antagonist essentially.
I mean, there's a great line that his kid says. He was just like, "Oh, my dad only started doing this after the divorce," which is maybe your parents should do that. Your dad will be more present.
It did wonders for my dad.
Again, it's so cynical towards everything surrounding the suburban family household.
Yeah.
Which is so weird to be in a kid's Christmas movie.
I know, man. Again, I got to stress this is what I love about the movie because there's no other Christmas movie that does that.
There's nothing really like it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I'm going to tell a story. I remember this was the first year of our friendship. So I remember we were celebrating your birthday and we all went out. It was a bunch of our roommates.
I know where you're going with this.
It was like 10 of us. This was when you and I lived in a bigger space. We had a bunch of roommates. It was 10 of us. We went to BJ's and you had a couple drinks. It was your birthday, right? So you had a couple drinks and you were drunk. Let's just say it. You were drunk. And when you're drunk, it's really funny because you get red-faced like crazy.
Yeah, I get the Asian glow pretty hardcore. Still to this day, I do.
It's funny how visibly drunk you get.
Yeah.
And like some people can drunk and they can pass it out, but they'll be glassy-eyed. But you're like, oh, Chris is drunk. Cool.
Yeah.
And you're unless you've had too much, you're a pretty happy drunk. Mm-hmm. When you've had too much, you're not angry. You're just like, I want to go home because this doesn't feel good anymore.
I get miserable pretty quick. Yeah.
So this was a perfect balance where you were still happy. What you were doing was, it was a bunch of us hanging out, but you were drunk, so you were just clocking me the entire time. And you had your phone out. And when we had dinner and we were out in the parking lot waiting for the Uber, you just kept showing me the put that cookie down scene on your phone. You had it up on YouTube and you were looking at it. I'm like, yeah, dude, it's really funny. And keep in mind, I haven't seen the movie yet. I only saw the movie for the first time 3 years ago. But I knew that scene because you told me about it. And you kept showing it to me on YouTube. And I was like, yeah, no, that's funny. And we were still waiting. And the Uber took like weirdly long. It took about 20 minutes to arrive. And you kept pulling it up. And at one point, I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but I was kind of backing away from you.
No, I know. You were like getting actually annoyed with me.
And you followed me.
Well, and keep in mind, listeners, too, like when you say this is the first year of our friendship, we probably knew each other like 3 months at this point. And we weren't like this, like tight knit like we are now at all. We were like cool, we were good friends and everything, but I
want to make it completely clear. I was sober. So imagine like a drunk man going after a sober man with a clip from Jingle All the Way.
Put that cookie down, just playing again and again for you.
Yeah, and it was like, and I understood you were inebriated, so it was funnier than usual. I will say this scene means a lot to you.
Just to really bring it home that like there is a special place in my heart for that moment.
Is this your favorite Arnold catchphrase?
Put the cookie down? Oh, yeah, by far.
It's not even a catchphrase, but it
his
is
like one-liners, whatever you call it, iconic quote.
It is the iconic quote that you quote the most.
It's still funny to me to this day. Like,
is it because of how angry he gets?
He gets so fucking mad. He gets like, obviously it's the subtext there. Oh, your wife's cookies. You know what I mean? It's clearly like he's, the subtext is all there. But he gets so fucking pissed because of how bad his day's been going and how stressed he is. He's like, put that cookie down. Like, and it cuts to like a wide where other people are like imagine seeing like this guy just yelling that.
I gotta say though, completely justified anger.
I know.
Like if I was on the phone trying to get in touch with my wife, let me just break down the layers to this.
Yeah.
I'm on the phone. I need to get in touch with my wife. So I call home. First person picks up is not my son or my wife. It's the fucking neighbor that's been kind of inappropriately flirting with my wife. So I'm like, why the hell is he in my home with me not there? And now he's like eating like cookies that my wife baked for the family and is bragging about it.
Yeah.
Like I would completely be having a breakdown after all, like you said, the shittiest day anyone could have.
Oh yeah, well, and especially when he's like, I think she's in the shower, Howard. You want me to go check?
Oh
no!
My God.
And then he's like, no. On
you
your way
want
out,
me to go check?
Yeah, I know. And he says like, on your way out, just tell her I'll be home late and she shouldn't worry. And he's like, well, they don't have to worry. I mean, I'm here. And
it is a brilliant comedic choice to make the one guy that Alpha's Arnold Schwarzenegger, Phil Hartman.
I know, man. Again, it just aged like fine wine to me. Like as a kid, it was just funny because this annoying neighbor, and then he yells
Arnold
at him,
yelling, put the
cookie down. Yeah, it's just funny to like a kid, but it's still really fucking funny to me as an adult.
It works. It completely works.
It just tickles it like almost arguably formed my sense of humor a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like The Rock can't do that. The Rock couldn't do a scene like that because he's too like, he needs to win every scene. If that makes sense. If you look at all his movies, he needs to win every scene. And the one performance of his in like a mainstream blockbuster that I really enjoy, besides like Hobbs from Fast Five and the Fast and Furious movies.
I thought that's where you're going to go
with
it.
The one comedic performance of his that I really enjoy is Jumanji.
Yeah.
The first Jumanji, not the Back in the Game or whatever the second one's called.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
the fuck the second
The first one's Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah.
Why did they create like a subtitle for the first one?
I don't know.
Oh, well, because there already is a Jumanji movie with Robin Williams, so that's probably
exactly.
why. Anyway.
But he's basically playing a teenager in The Rock's body, right? Because a high schooler goes into the game and then becomes Dwayne The Rock Johnson. And he plays that so well.
Oh, yeah, his body language feels like a nervous, insecure teenager.
Like how he gets surprised by his biceps.
Yeah, he's like poking his own bicep.
And he just doesn't do that as often. I think the reason Hobbs works so well is because he's parodying an action hero as Hobbs, where he's wearing Kevlar, is like oiled up, and is like delivering every line in such a hammy way that it works. But besides that, he just plays a guy in a t-shirt usually.
I mean, you've seen that meme, right? Where they took like 4 different screenshots and it says these are all different movies and he's wearing like a gray shirt with like a jungly background.
And his sense of humor is in these movies like Red Notice and whatever that he does.
Yeah.
Is just like I'm Ryan Reynolds, where he does like kind of meta, like quippy jokes.
Yeah.
But like Rock is a ridiculous looking person.
He has potential.
And
it's there.
And that's what works so well about Arnold in this movie. Arnold is a ridiculous person.
Yeah.
This is a huge guy that became an action hero that is now a comedy star. And he knows that. So when he says, holding the phone with a grip tight, firm hold and says, put that cookie down, he knows that's funny. Like, you know what I mean?
It's so true. What was that comedy movie that The Rock did with Kevin Hart? What was it called?
Central Intelligence.
Central Intelligence. Well, that was supposed to be good, right?
That was another one where he subverted his personality.
Yeah.
He plays a guy that in high school was bullied like crazy.
Because he was like super big, right? I've seen that clip from the trailer.
Yeah, and basically he grew up to be like this buff guy that, and like, but he's still like a sweetheart.
Yeah.
And when he meets Kevin Hart, who is like this football star, but now is just a loser, you know, Kevin Hart's is kind of like, oh man, I was such a big star in high school. And The Rock is like, everyone bullied me, but he's such a sweetheart.
Yeah.
Because Kevin Hart's character was the only nice, like popular guy that was like good to him.
Okay, cool.
And so it's fun to see him, but then also there's layers where like, because he was bullied, he still feels like I'm that bullied kid inside.
Yeah.
So like, I wish The Rock did more stuff like that.
Yeah, you know.
Instead of just, again, being a guy in a t-shirt.
Got nothing on Arnie.
Got nothing on Arnie. Yeah. I know I went down a tangent, but I just wanted to make a point of why Arnold works so well.
No, totally. I totally get what you're saying. Yeah. And I think, like I said, that was my first Arnold movie, and, you know.
It really stuck with you.
It did stick with me. It worked.
So, Jake Lloyd's in this movie.
Yes.
You had seen Phantom Menace before you saw Jingle All the Way, right?
No.
Okay.
No, again, I gotta stress, like, Phantom Menace came out in like 99, I think.
Uh-huh.
And I grew up with this movie just as a baby. I didn't put them together. I was too young to realize they were the same actor.
Okay.
Until like a couple years later.
Yeah.
So there was no connection I made as a child, but
I gotta say, the two biggest movies that Jake Lloyd has been a part of have the strangest legacies ever. Like,
that's very true.
Phantom Menace and Jingle All the Way, both movies that were still like kind of being like, what the hell was that?
Yeah. It's kind of a fever dream a little bit. You know?
Yeah. But both movies that people watch on a yearly basis. I know there's still people that watch prequels on like annually, you know what I mean? So
yeah, I mean, do you like Jake Lloyd's performance in this movie? Because I know it's a little polarizing. There are some people that really think he's an annoying, whiny kid, but then I like him.
To me, he plays a very realistic kid.
Yeah.
And maybe I have a tendency nowadays to be softer to Jake Lloyd. Like, on a podcast, I don't want to criticize him.
Yeah.
So I will say that as a bias. But I will say, I feel like we've seen this past decade of child performances starting, I look at it as like the 2016, the start of Stranger Things, where those actors broke through and we were like, where did they get these kids? This is the best child acting we've got. But there's been this phenomenon post Stranger Things where I feel like all kid actors are like, we curse a lot and we quip. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of sick of that a little bit because we've just gotten years and years of the same thing now. And there's this level of child performance here, which is like, we don't all have to be like Macaulay Culkin. And
yeah.
I feel like Jake Lloyd plays a pretty realistic kid.
Well, I definitely agree with that because, like, I've always had an aversion, and this isn't to the Stranger Things kids in particular, you know? It's just, like you said, the kind of that new movement where it felt like they cast kids to act like adults.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, like that's kind of where you're getting at, where they kind of have these like really well-structured sentences and are quippy,
And
which
it's all,
Macaulay
like-
Culkin killed.
Well, Macaulay Culkin was a phenomenon because
Yeah.
of that. But like that was new and fresh when that was coming out.
But yeah, like you said, it's we need kids to start acting like proper kids, where he's gonna be a bit whiny. He's gonna get mad at things, you know.
I'm watching Sopranos a lot, and I thought of AJ, like the actor who plays AJ. Like he's a good actor, and I'm only on season 3 of Sopranos, but he delivers every line like such a teenager. Where he's like, AJ, now why did you vandalize the swimming pool? That's my best Carmela.
Yeah,
that's my
yeah.
best Edie Falco. I can't do a better one. And then he was like, I don't know. I guess. I'm sorry. Like, like stone face. Like,
Yeah. We need more kind of jumbled sentences and awkward delivery of lines.
because kids are weird and awkward.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Jake Lloyd's performance?
I agree. I mean, it's hard for me to say because I'm so used to it. I've seen this movie hundreds of
You
times.
have such a personal relationship with this movie. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think he serves a purpose with what the movie needs. You know, he's cute when he needs to be cute. I do think, you know, like I always have like an aversion whenever like this is a writing criticism, not an acting criticism, but when the son is like slamming the door on their parent or something like that, there's like an immediate instinct of, oh, dude, my parents would never let me do that shit.
Well,
you know, when
I
he's
kind
like,
of had that feeling when I like when he's talking to him on the phone. He's like, when he just
Yeah.
slams the phone on him. I was like, oh my god, if I pull that shit, are you kidding me?
exactly, you know, but then again, our parents are probably different than this parent in the movie, you know, where he's like, come on, son, it's not my fault. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've headed up to here with Turbo Man.
Which side note, in the beginning of the movie, when after he missed his son's karate lesson, you know, because he got stuck in traffic and he left late because you're my number one customer, you know, that whole sequence.
Yeah.
That how he's trying to talk him back into it. And do you remember that whole scene when he's trying to kind of get his attention again when he like ties the belt around his head?
Yeah. There's a lot of moments in this movie where I'm like, that's such an Arnold pitch. He's like, I should do karate in this one scene. Or like him doing like a stunt where he's like going through the mall and he sees like the kid in the stroller with the ball and he like literally jumps from one story to another. Probably a stunt man, but the fact that that's in the movie, he's like, there should be some action in here. Like,
exactly. Well, and this is a side note, but the movie just starts. Remember how it literally starts with Turbo Man bursting through the rocks or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, it starts, because it's basically a commercial, right? But it feels like
Yeah.
a Power Ranger style opening.
Exactly. I kind of deduced that Turbo Man's like a combination of like Power Rangers and Batman with like a little bit of Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah, sure.
You know?
We can go through the plot, but I feel like we've touched on a lot of things.
Yeah.
Before we get to the main like parade sequence, is there anything you want to talk about in between there? Like, is there any one scene that you really want to highlight?
I mean, it's the whole movie's kind of one big fever dream for me because, again, like I said, I've seen this movie so many fucking times. I mean, a big thing I want to highlight, which I think it's when people realize how weird this movie really is as soon as they get to that underground black market Santa Claus operation.
Yeah.
Of like,
There's an uncredited Vern Troyer in that scene.
Yeah, I know. I didn't realize until much later that that's Vern Troyer. You know, like the movie Baby's Day Out?
Yeah.
It's not a great movie, but he was a stunt performer for The Baby.
Yeah, again, like this is another like who else would reference Baby Days Out?
It's Baby's Day Out,
Sorry,
make no mistake.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, not Baby Days Out.
Who's in that movie again? Let me
Like no one. I don't recognize any of the actors, I don't think.
Okay, so Baby's Day Out, 1994. The poster is phenomenal.
Really? What is it? Let me see.
It's a kid on top of a gorilla crushing three
Oh,
other
yeah,
men.
I've seen that, yeah.
Oh, and then no. Then there's another poster of like a kid in a taxi looking at like New York. Like he's all alone.
Oh, yeah, that's the one I recognize for sure. Well, what's funny about...
Joey Pants is in it.
Okay, yeah.
Fuck yeah, he is.
It very much took from the Home Alone formula, but it's like a baby crawling away. I think they were trying to kidnap it for ransom or something like that, but it's like these 2 or 3 like buffoon bad guys.
Oh, I know the movie.
Yeah,
I haven't
okay,
seen
okay.
it, but I know.
Got it. Yeah. So they try to get the baby, and the baby just, they're like along construction.
And the
steel
baby
beams.
like accidentally gets away with it every time.
Exactly. It's just a baby kind of curiously crawling around,
mean-
but these guys are hustling, trying to capture it, and they, like physical shenanigans ensue.
Fucking crazy that in 1994 this movie would come out, and because there's no such thing as streaming, it would come out in theaters. Like it would be like, we are gonna put this out. Let's see how much it made real quick.
Yes. Just this is a total side tangent, but let's go.
Okay, so I'm on Wikipedia right now. It had a $48 million budget. It made $30 million. Chris, I just want to throw this out there. Who's the writer of this movie?
Oh, is it John Hughes?
It's fucking John Hughes.
I think I knew that. I think I remembered something like that. There was a period where John Hughes was kind of just doing a lot of writing gigs.
Because it's John Hughes, also this movie's set in Chicago. So it's not New York, it's Chicago.
We should turn this slowly into a Baby's Day Out podcast, even though you haven't seen it.
I just think that's amazing. Okay, anyways, wow. What a great tangent. Okay, so let's talk about the parade sequence.
Yeah.
Now, he hasn't been successful getting Turbo Man.
He's been fighting on and off with Sinbad, and he got Sinbad to open up to him a little bit, that Sinbad's looking out for his son. And I'm only contextualizing because there's more pressure on him now, basically, because...
and it comes to a head with him deciding to just straight up steal the Turbo Man from Phil Hartman's house.
Yeah.
And
that's so fucked up.
It really is fucked up because he's stealing another kid's gift.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, that fucking reindeer comes after him.
God, I know. That scene scared the shit out of me as a kid.
I mean, it's the way it's shot, too, is like breakneck speed.
I want to give a small... I know you're trying to add to the
I'm trying to get to the parade.
I know. I'm trying to get to the parades, but I do actually want to hone in a little bit, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Because, like, there are some choices throughout this movie in, like, filmmaking where you're like, wait, did they just do... Like, I remember that scene...
Yeah.
When they show like a split diopter shot of the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And then him outside. And then it does like the Alfred Hitchcock shot.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, this movie is made well.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of like how it looks, I think the reason you and I always like to point stuff out for movies like that are as dumb as these, like in our free time when we watch like these kind of movies and we're just like, wow, it's actually shot well. And it's mostly movies in the 90s. I think the reason you and I point that out is because nowadays, if this movie would come out, it would come out straight on Netflix or straight on Disney Plus or something like that, right? And it would be made for that format, which is made like with this modern digital sense of filmmaking that has little to no effort. But because this is like a studio movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, they had money in it, and they actually made a movie.
Yeah, I mean, like, I remember that small touch when, well, you know, the recurring element of the cop that he keeps, like, bumping into and, you know.
Yeah, of course.
When he knocks into him and he spills the coffee all over him, remember it, like, crash zooms on both of them?
Right, oh, 100%.
Like, they didn't have to do
and
that.
They don't do that camera move any other point in the movie. It's just that point. But then... one of the craziest things happens, which is reindeer escapes through the door, and now Arnold's had enough. Or should I say,
Howard Langston?
Howard Langston's had enough. And he looks at him and is like, oh. And the reindeer comes after him. He straight up uppercuts.
Yeah. He just clocks the reindeer.
And the reindeer's like,
oh, yeah, he does like this. It's like a low groan. It's like, oh.
Like a boxer or something like
exactly.
that. And he's like, oh, you started it.
Yeah.
Crazy. The only scene that I can like comp it to that this happens is when like the opening of True Lies, when there's two guard dogs after Arnold, and Arnold picks both of them up and slams them together.
Yeah.
Like, there's a weird amount of animal violence that happens through Arnold's filmography.
That's true, huh? The other scene I think of is a Mongo in Blazing Saddles.
Oh, yeah.
Remember where he just punches the horse?
That's really funny. Dude, that's... You and I, like, in our reaction, freak out when that happens.
We don't advocate animal violence, people, but goddamn, when it's in movies, it's funny as shit.
When the horse gets knocked out, it's kind of funny.
Oh, God! Shit! But but then he ends up like kind of sharing a beer and kind of bonding with the reindeer a little bit.
That's why it kind of works. It's like they have like a post-fight like drink.
Yeah.
Where they're like, I'm sorry about that. Like, you want me to top you off? Or like
he like pours beer in a little bowl for him.
And then he sees a drawing that his kid made. I gotta say, that kid made a pretty good drawing of Arnold, which is Arnold in a Hawaiian shirt, square face.
Yeah.
A rectangle face.
Yeah, it was like this very tight jaw.
And he's like, I gotta make it to that parade. Gets to the parade. He does end up seeing like Phil Hartman trying to put his arm around his wife or whatever, but ends up like running away from the cops, accidentally comes into this like weird, dark, like warehouse type location where people are getting ready for the parade for something, and you see these quick shots of people putting stuff on Arnold. It's like, oh, you're the guy, right?
Yeah.
Without asking any further questions or checking, they're like, you're the guy, and starts putting it on. Arnold's just like, oh.
Yeah, he's just confused. He's trying to ask a question.
Still kind of going with it though. Like he's not really like asking too many questions.
Oh yeah, and he's Arnold. He could fight them off if he wanted to.
Which is okay. So before we get to the real
the meat and potatoes of Act 3,
I want to say, to set this up, this movie doesn't give a fuck about any logic or anything, right? It is like, this is a movie. And I kind of miss that fuck it all energy.
I know, dude. That's why this movie's so near and dear to me. It just lets go and is just there to take you along for the ride.
Can I make a connection that you're going to laugh at, but I mean sincerely? That's why I love M. Night Shyamalan.
Okay. I see where you're...
That is genuinely why I love him, because he makes a movie and he doesn't give a fuck if it makes sense or not.
Yeah.
As long as it's gripping and entertaining, that's truly what he's trying to do. There was a time in his career where he's like, no, I am a serious filmmaker. He is now in a phase where he's like, a beach that makes you old. I don't know. I'm just trying shit. Like, you know what I mean? And he like names a character mid-sized sedan, and like he's like, the things I care about are the emotional center of the movies. Like, I'm not saying his movies are void of emotions.
Yeah.
They actually have a lot. He always has stuff to say.
But he'll take big swings and doesn't really care about, like, thinking through what makes sense about it.
Yeah, that's what... And, like, I miss that energy. And that's why I love this movie so much, because it has that in spades.
Yeah. And, like, I think what's also funny about that sequence is... My girlfriend pointed this out when we watched it, is that, like... He just sort of accidentally wanders into it. Like, he doesn't really earn his family's affection back. Like, he doesn't, like, do something to show up for his family to get the Turbo Man doll to, like, really redeem himself. He mentally does. Like, he verbally says, like, I'm going to start showing up. But he just sort of happens to wander in and get the Turbo Man suit.
That's why I kind of wish I did a little bit more research besides just a Wikipedia read-through. Because I want to know, were the filmmakers in on that? Like, did they make that a purposeful joy? It's like, oh, it'd be funny if he just walked into this.
Yeah, I don't know.
But either way, it's so, like, again, like you say, there's nothing like it. Because what ends up happening is that he comes out full Turbo Man. I remember the first time us watching this, you were just fucking dying. And at first I was like, yeah, no, it is really funny that he's just in the costume. I didn't know what you were laughing at is waiting for me to actually see what happens. What's really funny, though, is when, like, he starts, like, waving. And like I said earlier, he's like, okay.
Yeah,
like,
this is cool.
and then there's, like, the parade set up this whole, like, mechanism where the villain from the show or whatever, whose name is... Actually, I'm going to test you. What's the villain's name in this fake show?
Oh, in the Turbo Man show. What is it? It's like... Dementor. Yeah.
I knew you would know it.
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
was like, and so we see this shot of Dementor waiting because that's the stage, but then suddenly someone punches him out. It's Sinbad.
He steals the suit.
And he comes down. They start fighting after he gives the special thing to special Turbo Man doll to Jake Lloyd. They start fighting, and turns out the suit is fully operational. It has discs that he can throw.
Yeah, his turbo ring, and he has a jetpack.
And when you're watching this, you're like, wow, okay, this is a pretty extensive suit. Probably costs a lot. And then the jetpack moment happens.
Well, yeah, because basically Jake Lloyd and Sinbad were chasing each other onto a roof, and then that, like, mechanical Christmas tree falls, so they're dangling. And, or wait, no, that happens later, I think, huh? I don't know. He's up high, and basically he had to use his...
The dangling part happens at the end, which is what's funny, is that him flying... does nothing, like, but except when he catches him at the end.
Well, he catches him, yeah. But anyway, yeah. So he needs to use his jetpack to save his son, essentially.
Okay, so when that started, like my like I said earlier, my jaw was on the floor. Like, you can't believe it that this movie would just go there. That this suit is not just decorational. It not only just has discs that throw. It can fly. I'm
trying to keep my laughter quiet for the listener's experience, but visually, if you're on the YouTube channel, you could see I'm just giggling this whole time.
You know, like, it's crazy that this movie does that.
As a kid, too, I laughed just as hard as I am now as a kid, just at the idea of him just, like, flying through screaming. I used to, like, I'm not joking, I used to put on a backpack, like a little plastic kiddie backpack, and pretend to be Turbo Man. But
no fucking shit.
Yeah, but it would, like, I wouldn't, like, try to be the heroic Turbo Man. I would be like Arnold in there, where I would be like, oh, like, I would run around pretending I didn't know how to fly a jetpack.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, I did that. And
Damn, Turbo Man was like a thing for you.
It was when I was little. And like,
Okay, so I know I just need to say this real quick. Like, I knew Jingle All the Way, you grew up with it, but I didn't know to what extent.
Okay, no, that
I didn't know it was like a Star Wars to you, where I'm like dressing up and like.
This is why I laugh so hard, because it's so fucking ridiculous, this movie.
Well,
but it holds such a special place in my heart.
Peek behind the curtain a little bit. We were gonna do another movie. I'm not gonna say what, because we'll eventually do it in the future.
Yeah.
But it was gonna be like another like Christmas classic episode. And I was trying to root for Jingle All the Way. And you were like, I don't know if many people care about that movie as much as I do. But the reason I wanted to do it, and then you eventually were rooting for it too, was this movie does mean a lot to you in like a weird way. And I feel like it shows people who you are as a movie lover.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, is there like a coding in my sense of humor when you watch it?
Yeah, completely. And like, I just think that it allows people to see that you're more than just like a typical movie podcaster. That
Thanks, man.
This is like genuinely your taste in movies. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying that in like that's kind of why I love you, because I have like a very typical film bro sense of taste, which is like, I mean, obviously I have a soft spot for Adam Sandler. And
I was going to say, that's not totally true. I get what you're saying, though.
But I am a Criterion Channel member. Like, I do collect Blu-rays. I love Pulp Fiction, all that stuff. And you do too. But like, I'm more typical. And I think something I respect about you is that you root for these movies.
Yeah, I really do, man.
When you and I hang out, we're not watching Kill Bill. We're watching.
We just watched Daddy's Home.
Yeah, we're watching
like a month ago or something.
We're watching Daddy's Home. Like, that's the movie you'll root for. And so I just think it's exciting that we're doing this.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about him, man. I think I just get such a kick out of like movies that don't care, that don't feel like they're trying to impress anyone or trying to hit like a mold. Is like I said with Turbo Man, yeah, he's just into flying around the fucking city in a Turbo Man suit screaming. Like, you never expect the movie would go there.
Because it's the filmmakers just being like, yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, he's totally. That's the stuff that I get excited about when I watch movies, is when movies just don't care.
And this movie's like an hour and a half. It's like, it's a tight 90 minutes, and it does so much shit in there, and it doesn't once give a flying fuck if any of it makes sense.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else before we fully wrap up, this is a small touch, and I think a lot of people have talked about this already, but I've always loved how much they don't recognize him in the suit, even though he clearly has his accent in his face.
Yeah, it's even more unbelievable than Clark Kent and the glasses thing, because Arnold has such a distinct voice.
Yeah, and he's like...
Sorry, that was my phone.
Wow, Altaf.
My bad.
Turn your phone off, dude.
We'll keep this in.
Yeah. Oh, we will. I know. Like, even comes down to when he calls his son out, he's like, Jamie! Like, he gets close to him and he looks and he's like, how'd you know my name? Like, that's clearly your fucking dad. How do you not see that?
He knows my name.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. All right, so we asked you guys how this movie changed you, and we got some emails. We'd love to read them in. This has become my favorite part of the show.
Yeah, I'm really happy with implementing this.
So, like we've said in the past, follow us on Instagram, like all socials. We have an Instagram, TikTok. Follow us on YouTube. We also upload this on Patreon. But everywhere you can find us, we always let you guys know what episode we're doing and when you can email us. So... our email is also moviesthatchangedus@gmail.com, just so you know for the future.
Which I also want to jump in and say, like, this isn't a bad thing, but I am surprised we got emails for this one, because I genuinely was not sure if anyone, because I had to write out, like, how did Jingle All the Way change you? And I was like, did this movie change anyone?
This is kind of a cult movie, man.
Yeah. So I'm really excited that people gave a shit enough to write to us. So thank you to those who wrote.
So the first one is from Braxarax. Hey guys, so I've always loved this movie since I was a kid, but how this movie changed me is a bit meta and beyond the movie. This movie stands among many of my childhood favorites that have something in common: Kangaroo Jack, Master of Disguise, Attack of the Clones, and this movie. I didn't know these were bad movies until I began getting on the internet as a teen. And for a while, this really bothered me, but I'm now at a place where I can love these quote-unquote flawed films unabashedly. Why did these have to be guilty pleasures? Why feel guilty? Even if a movie is objectively not great, if it thoroughly entertains you by the end, it is a good movie. And I assure you, this Christmas I'll be shouting, "Those are my cookies!" at my family in my best Arnie impression.
Hell yeah.
No, I mean, that's kind of what we were just talking about.
Took the word straight from my mouth. Yeah, exactly. It's like, It is, yeah. There is a thing where, like it said in the write-in, it's like it doesn't have to be guilty. I had a blast watching this.
The internet has kind of done that a little bit though, which is it's made it extremely black and white of like how you feel about a movie. But there was that quality when we were growing up. I think we're the last generation that'll remember what it was like without the internet. And there was this quality when you and I were kids. Any movie, as long as it was mildly entertaining, was good.
Yeah, we just had a good time with it. It doesn't have to be, I think the only people back then were obviously written reviews that you'd read in the newspaper and stuff, and then like Siskel and Ebert.
That's the best part about being a kid, at least for me, was the fact that I could watch any movie and kind of love it.
And just have a good time with it.
Yeah, and then when you get older, you develop a different taste and whatever, right? So, yeah, great way to phrase it, Braxarax.
This one is from Dan. He's written to us before, so thank you for writing to us again. Hello, nice dudes. This is Dan, the same guy from the Star Wars and Incredibles episodes. I'm currently 15 and ready for the holiday season. Jingle All the Way is a movie that I had only seen for the first time last year while looking through Disney Plus, trying to find some new Christmas movies. I have loved other Arnold movies before this, like Predator and of course the first 2 Terminator movies, and I liked his comedies a lot as well, like Kindergarten Cop. I had heard for a while that this movie wasn't that good, but was funny, and I disagree with that statement. I love this movie. I was constantly laughing at all the bizarre moments from Arnold, like the famous "put that cookie down," or when he punched the hell out of the reindeer. See, I start laughing when I'm just reading it out loud.
You have so much joy with this movie.
I really do.
It makes me happy.
Okay, anyway. The general concept is so simple with someone trying to make a purchase, but the execution of the plot is just pure madness, with most scenes ending in violence, but it is just a good time. Probably my 3rd favorite Christmas movie. Here's a random top 5. 5, Christmas Chronicles. 4, Home Alone. 3, Jingle All the Way. 2, Christmas Vacation. Number 1, Die Hard. Happy holidays from Dan.
Jingle All the Way is above Home Alone.
I was going to say that. I'm interested in that.
Totally fine with it, obviously. But yeah, I think those write-ins were really nice just because I think if people get anything out of this podcast is that don't feel guilty about your guilty pleasures.
Oh yeah, I know. Just have a good time, man. Just watch all types of movies.
Yeah. Exactly. I think, and also, don't give too much of a shit about plot holes.
Yeah, I know, right?
The
internet's always so full of like 10 things you missed, 10 unresolved things,
And people are really quick to just like be hypercritical over little things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, listen, if you had fun watching the movie, that's all that matters. If you're not a film critic, you don't have to worry about the other shit.
Yeah,
it's okay to have like a particular taste, and it's okay to be critical. I'm not even saying that, but I'm just saying like sometimes it's fine to just have fun with a movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like I shared this on Patreon. We do a monthly catch up podcast on Patreon if anyone wants to check it out. But
it's called Nice Dude Catch Up.
It's called Nice Dude Catch Up, and it's spelled like tomato ketchup. Anyway, though. I shared on it, though, that my girlfriend and I love to watch like Christmas rom-coms, like crappy Hallmark or, even straight to Netflix. Any of those those crummy rom-coms that are just kind of comfort and funny and whatever. And again, it's just some movies, they don't have to be objectively good, but it's just watch it and enjoy it,
So, with that being said, let me just give you guys a prompt for the comments. If you have a guilty #not so guilty pleasure movie, recommend it in the comments down below.
Yeah, and don't argue with each other in the comments either.
No, this is a place where you can recommend a movie, and then also maybe we'll check it out, and maybe other people watching this could check it out as well.
Or you feel validated, be like, thank you, I like this movie too.
Exactly. So put in the comments down below. You guys know our taste.
Yeah, we're pretty forthcoming about our taste.
So thank you guys so much for watching.
I'm sorry, what?
I said thank you so much for watching.
We're at the end of our rope when we're like fucking fudging our words while we wrap up.
I also can't believe I was trying to like blaze past that.
I knew that when you actually edit this, you're going to be like, oh, fuck me.
Yeah, I know. Good call. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much to our patrons for supporting us again and again. We really appreciate it. We hope you guys having a good holiday season, Stay nice, dudes.